David Hume, a Scottish philosopher, has a very unique way of looking at man. As an empiricist, he believes that knowledge can only be possible if it is sensed and experienced. Man can only attain knowledge by experiencing. And by experiencing, it means that we are using our senses. For example, you know that your friend is another human person not because you have seen his soul, just like what other philosophers have proposed. You know that he is just like you because you see him, hear him, and touch him. To David Hume, the self is nothing else but a bundle of impressions. What are impressions? For him, if one tries to examine his experiences, he finds that they can all be categorized into two: impressions and ideas. Impressions are the basic objects of our experience or sensation. They therefore form the core of our thoughts. When one touches an ice cube, the cold sensation is an impression. Impressions, therefore, are vivid because they are products of our direct experience with the world. Ideas, on the other hand, are copies of impressions. Because of this, they are not as lively and vivid as our impressions. When one imagines the feeling of being in love for the first time, that still is an idea. Another example, say if you're currently listening to this video lecture, this is an impression because this is your actual experience of a video lecture. Now, if you are going to recall this exact experience of yours by next week, then that basically becomes an idea. What is self then? Self, according to Hume, is simply a bundle or collection of different perceptions which succeed each other with an inconceivable rapidity and are in a perpetual flux and movement. Men simply want to believe that there is a unified, coherent soul or mind, just like what the previous philosophers thought. But in reality, what one thinks is a unified self is simply a combination of all experiences with a particular person. Again, according to Hume, because our experiences overlap one another, it is impossible for us to have a uniform self. There is no self. The self or the concept of self is fictional. It does not exist in reality. What we only have is a collection of all of our experiences. Now, the next philosopher class disagreed with Hume. According to him, we construct the self. No? By the way, this is Immanuel Kant. Although that he acknowledged Hume's ideas that knowledge of the world begins with sensation, he contends that our primary experience of the world is not in terms of a disconnected stream of sensation. So, hindi siya naniniwala doon class sa sinabi ni Hume na nag-overlap yung mga sense experiences natin, yung mga ideas natin inside our mind. In fact, Immanuel Kant explicated that because of our sense experiences, unti-unti siyang na-organize, unti-unti siyang nagiging unified inside our consciousness. And the one responsible for that class is our self. Now, ang question is, agad-agad bang nabubuo yung self natin the moment we are born? According to Kant class, hindi. So, it is actually gradual. So, it takes time. However, anong tawag dito? As we experience the outside world, as we grow and develop, that is also the time that we slowly form our sense of self. Moreover, according to him, we each have fundamental rules or principles built into the architecture of our minds. Why? Because our self class is the one accountable for making sense of our own experiences. Diba no? So, hindi lang tayo basta-basta nakaka-experience ng mga bagay-bagay. But more importantly, our self is giving meaning to our sense of experiences. And that is exactly no, yung tinatawag ni Kant class na fundamental rules or principles. So these experiences are related to one another simply because they belong to a unified system, which is actually the self, no? So sabi niya pa nga dito, the unity of consciousness. The thoughts and perceptions of any given mind are bound together in a unity by being all contained in one consciousness. So we may have shared an experience, but we radically have different experiences. Why? Because, of course, we have our own interpretations of our experiences. This in-line class consists of the physicalists. They are the ones who believe that all aspects of the universe are composed of matter and energy and can be fully explained by physical views. Everything is physical, that there is nothing over and above physical. So it means, class, that everything can be transformed into something concrete, something that we can observe in an actual experience. So physicalist class do not focus on the minds, no? Do not focus on the internal thoughts that we have, but on the observable things, no? So the first one we have Gilbert Ryle. He said that the self is how you behave. Our behavior is our identity. So our action class identifies our self, no? Of course, he follows behaviorism. Focus more on public events. What are these public events? These are the behaviors of people, something that is observable by the people around us, no? While ignoring private events. Private events class are the thoughts of the people. Of course, you cannot actually observe, no, the thoughts of the people. That's why he labeled it private events. It contends that public behaviors as such can be described scientifically without recourse to either internal psychological events or to hypothetical constructs like thoughts or beliefs. No more dichotomy by denying the inner selves, immortal souls, states of consciousness, or unconscious entities. So, hindi na siya naniniwala doon, class. Ang sabi niya lang, kung ano yung pinapakita ng tao, kung ano yung pinapresent natin in an actual situation, then that actually defines us. No? The self is a pattern of behavior, the tendency or disposition for a person to behave in a certain way in a certain circumstances. Next one we have Paul Churchland. So he supported eliminative materialism. So it is grounded in neuroscience. It holds that the self is inseparable from the substance of the brain and the physiology of the body. So our self class, of course, is controlled by the brain, and whatever it is that is being thought by the brain also influence our physiology, no? And specifically our body. Contemporary advances in neurophysiology allow scientists to observe the living brain as it works to process information, create ideas, and move through dream states. He argues that a new, accurate, objective, and scientifically based understanding of ourselves will contribute substantially toward a more peaceful and humane society. So, the understanding class of the self involves the understanding of the brain and our understanding of the body. Alright, we are down with the last two philosophers that we have in this lesson. Without further ado, let's proceed with Edmund Husserl. According to him, the self is embodied subjectivity. Subjectivity class means that the self is ambiguous. Ambiguous in a sense that one interpretation for me may not be the interpretation of other people. My interpretation of myself may be true for me, may be correct for me, but it may be wrong for the other. No? Husserl proposed phenomenology, a philosophical approach that attempts to give a direct description of ourself as it is in itself, without taking into account its psychological origins or causal explanations. According to this, all knowledge of ourselves and our world is based on the phenomena of experience. So we are going, class, to analyze, no, experience itself, or the self, no, the self based on the phenomena of our experiences, based on the circumstances that we have in our life. Moreover, class Husserl expressed that the division between mind and body is a product of confused thinking. So, yung mga perspective class ni Socrates, ni Plato, ni Descartes, ni St. Augustine, so all of those class who supported the dichotomous reality class, sabi niya, confused thinking daw yun, no? Product ng confused thinking. Last but not the least, class, we have Maurice Merleau-Ponty, who said that I live in my body. So, lived body for him, class, is an entity that can never be objectified in a completely objective sort of way, as opposed to the body as object of the dualists. So, dualists are Socrates, Plato, St. Augustine, and Descartes, no? Body as objectless, because they perceive body as a container of the soul. And by that, the function or the purpose of the body itself is already restricted, right? So, there is not a duality of substances, but only dialectic of living being in its biological milieu. Our living body, class, is a product, no? It's a synthesis, no, of our mind and our biology. So when you say biology, of course, from the tiniest cell that we have up to the tissues and then the systems and all of these things that make us do whatever we want to do. So this justifies our living body. So that's all. Thank you very much. I hope that you can gain something from this video lecture, class. I hope na pagtsatsagaan nyo yung pakikinig sa lecture na ito. And although that I cannot meet you personally, in fact, no, I only met mga siguro mga 5, no? 5 out of 250 or 267 students of mine in this course, but I am still hopeful na makikita ko kayo personally, class. Just be updated of the further video lectures that I'm gonna send to you later on, and of course, I hope that this can make an impact in your pursuit of growth and development. Thank you, class. Bye-bye.